Hey, fellow babies. Welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. If you are watching real time, that's because you're a Patreon patron. Thank you very much. Or you have linked your Twitch Prime account to your Amazon Prime account. Thank you very much. Patronage costs money. If you've got it, we appreciate it. Twitch Prime, Amazon Prime costs you nothing, and everybody who's a Prime member should do it. Yes, you can link your Twitch account to your parents' Prime account, so please figure it out. It's in the instructions below. Today's question from Patreon from Rodri. Would it make sense for Sony to launch its own PC game store and just release its first-party games as exclusives on the store alongside other third-party games? Would the cost of building the storefront be prohibitive? It seems like it'd be easy since it already has PlayStation Network on console. Yeah, I agree. Super easy. And cost of delivery, honestly, not meaningfully different from delivering digital downloads on the PlayStation. So the question is just, does Sony want to be in the PC business? And, you know, Microsoft is a PC company. I mean, Microsoft, it's the Windows operating system, and obviously their core bread and butter business is cloud and selling Office productivity software for PCs. And so for Microsoft to put games on PC is just a natural because they're already great at it. For Sony to do it, you know, it arguably competes with the PlayStation, but to be honest with you, that's where the world's heading. I mean, the world's heading to streaming games on any device, and there's no reason ultimately why you can't download a game to your console or your PC, and that device is the CPU, GPU that connects to your TV and doesn't have to connect by wire. It can do it wirelessly, and you should be able to play any game on any device, and it's not really streaming from the cloud. It's really streaming from your device. So I think it's inevitable somebody gets into PC, and I think it's actually a pretty good question. I just don't know how many years it'll take. It's not something that I think they plan to do tomorrow. But remember, they bought Gaikai and On Live, and those are kind of, you know, streaming services that don't have a console involved. And so they clearly are headed in that direction. It's just that when are they going to make the leap? You know, I think that the recent activity, you know, you've seen with Death Stranding and Horizon shows you that they know that's where the market is headed. So unlike Nintendo, who seems not concerned at all where the market's headed, and they're just convinced that they're doing the right thing and they're never going to change their model, Sony's adaptive. You know, so I think PlayStation Now, purchase Gaikai, purchase On Live, shows that they're willing to adapt and try to do, you know, whatever the next thing is. And Microsoft's success with xCloud and, you know, playing any game that you play on Xbox, you can play on PC, Xbox Anywhere, and now Game Pass, you know, that will ultimately go to any device, and Luna for Amazon, any device. I mean, Sony's got to be ready for that. So why not put games on PC? Why not, you know, allow people who don't want to buy a PlayStation to play great PlayStation games? That takes the value of first-party software up for them. Obviously, you as a PlayStation owner might feel like it cheapens your value proposition. Why should I buy a PlayStation? They're looking at this as we can expand the market to any household with a PC, which is, you know, a couple billion PCs out there. So pretty easy to get an incremental 10 million units of sales if you put a game on PC. And I think it's important for the console owner, the consumer, that the games be exclusive on PlayStation for a while before they go on PC. But you don't get mad at, you know, a movie studio if you saw a movie in the theater and it shows up on HBO a year later. It shows up, you know, to rent 3 or 4 months later. You don't care. So that's how Sony should manage this. And keep the windows separate. Make sure that the person who invests in a PlayStation feels like they got something cool and exclusive for a period of time. And then branch out and let more people enjoy the product. We're spending all the money making the product. Ultimately, that just means more profit that they can reinvest in making even better games. And so you should get better games, more of them, as Sony can exploit their you know, market opportunity by going off console and selling on PC as well, and ultimately streaming and subscription and other things, then that's better for everybody. So yes, I think they'll do it. No, I don't think it costs very much. Yes, I think it's a good business decision, and no, I don't think it's going to hurt your console ownership, but if they expand the market. Okay, today's question from YouTube, from Film Gamer. What's the deal with second-party studios? It seems like a lot of paperwork. If these studios make first-party games, so they remain second-party developers, how do they afford independence while only committing to a single project? how did Insomniac manage to stay independent for so long, and what changed? It's funny. There's a couple of different types of what they call work for hire studios, and some of them do a mix of first party and third party games, and I'd say Gearbox is one of those. They've done a bunch of first party stuff, and they've done a bunch of stuff like I'm pretty sure Borderlands belongs to Take-Two, so I'd say Gearbox is a second party studio for that, but they're a first party studio for some of their own titles. And it's all over the place. There are guys like High Voltage that only does work for hire, as far as I know. Can't remember when they were making something. And there are guys like Insomniac pretty much only did second party titles, but they own their own IP. So they, I think they owned Resistance, but it was a PlayStation exclusive, but I'm pretty sure Insomniac owned the title. Where like Ratchet and Clank, I'm pretty sure Sony owns that, and it's a second party studio. I think what ended up happening is that, Sony recognized that Insomniac was just too valuable and they couldn't make a lot of these games without them. And, sometimes I think that the real missing element in the second party studio is either that creative spark or risk taking. Because to be honest with you, the guys who make these games are plenty creative. They don't have the risk tolerance to create something brand new and take the chance. And like the poster child for risk tolerance is Vince Zampella. He was Call of Duty, did it. He did Medal of Honor for EA. He did Call of Duty for Activision. Activision fired him out of nowhere. He had $100 million in the bank. He and Jason West, and they're like, "Hey, let's make Titanfall." And Titanfall, they own it. That wasn't an EA title. Now, EA had exclusive rights for a sequel, but if EA passed on Titanfall 2, Vince owned it. And he took a lot of risk, and then with his Titanfall profits, Titanfall 1 and 2, he said, let's make Apex. Let's take a risk. And it was so successful, EA bought him. So, that's that guy. And then there's Ted Price, who I would argue is more creative than Vince. If you kind of look at all the stuff that Insomniac has created, it's Sunset Overdrive. I mean, you may not have liked the game as well, but really creative stuff. Resistance, really creative. Even reimagining Spider-Man and making it that cool. Ratchet and Clank, really cool. So I think they're super creative, but they may not have created the characters, and they're just not the kind of guys who are like, hey, we're going to go spend our own money and go into debt and take a risk. And that's kind of the difference between third party and second party studios. Guys who want a steady living, have families. I think Ted's got 4 kids. They want to make sure their kids have a roof over their heads. And so I don't blame him. Sold to Sony. Why did he sell to Sony? Because now he's got more money than he'll ever spend, and he's an employee and he's happy. Why am I an employee at Wedbush when I'm so freaking great? Because being self-employed is hard. It takes a certain type of risk tolerance that I lack, and Vince Zampella has it. So I'd say the difference is guys who want to be their own boss are, guys who want to work for somebody else do. And it really just depends on, something inside you that, that tells you to take a risk or not, or how you were raised, or your financial situation, or something else. But I completely understand why there'd be second party studios. And that's what I would look at me as a second party studio. I make a lot of money for Wedbush, and I really like those guys, and they treat me well, and they pay me plenty. And I get opportunities to work for other people all the time, and I turn them down because I like the guys I'm working for. They're nice, they treat me well, and I want to keep working for them. And I've turned down better offers because I like these guys. So I understand it. That's it for today's Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. If you're on via Patreon, thank you for your contributions. If you have linked your Twitch and your Amazon Prime accounts, thank you very much. If you're following me on Twitter at Michael Pachter, thank you very much. We'll see you next time.